Okay, so the basis to this will be a Gemara we'll get to in a minute on Avodah Zarah Yates. But every so often I like giving shir on this, which is there, and if there is, why is there humor in Torah? And primarily in the Talmud.
Every day with the joke.
Rava used to start. Yeah, we'll get to it. Good. Now, so before we get to the Gemara, okay, all right. Right. Before we get to the Gemara, this is something that Ray Clapper pointed out to me once. Right? Is that right? There is the Chumash, at least, is not particularly humorous. So every so often you may find puns. Possibly the first pun in Torah is in Bereshis. Is in Bereshis. It's all in order here. Is in Bereshis where. What? No, that's not that's not like a funny pun. It's like Shamayim. That's just a contraction. That's like, right?
It's not a pun. Shamayim is an independent word. It has a root to it. It's not Shemayim.
Okay, fine. So yes, it's true that might even be earlier. In a sense, that's a pun. The one that might be somewhat funny, not hysterical funny, but is where Hashem tells Cain, you are going to be Navanat Tiyeh Ba'aretz, I'm punishing you and I'm going to make you wander, except what does he actually do in Pshat? He goes and lives in a city called Wander, right, in Nod. Right? But in the Gemara, right, which we'll focus on primarily, right, so Ray Yitzi Blau has a very nice share where he notes that not only is it clear that the Gemara has humor, but you could also identify different types of humor, meaning there are different categories of humor, and you can find that the Gemara actually has many different types of humor. Now, puns you would expect, because pun is a very nerdy sense of humor. Rabbis love puns because they're nerds, right? Rabbinic humor is not particularly good, and a lot of them play on puns. If you want to see a lot of bad jokes later, I can show you. We literally have on the internal rabbinic website for YU a joke archive, which I have never used in a shir ever, because
sure. That sounds terrible. I feel like
I just don't bother telling jokes. I would not tell jokes before I told those jokes.
I'm gonna go on there and find out Zirirng like the most prominent poster.
It's jokes. It's the joke and story archive. Whatever. Okay. Now, obviously, the fact that the Gemara has puns is not really surprising. Yeah.
I guess a little overarching. What's the point of this?
What? Whoa. We'll get to that. Okay. We'll get to that. First, we have to prove that there is humor. Then we'll get to why it would be important to note that there is humor in the Gemara. Okay. Good. We'll get there. Okay. Now, the most famous pun in the Talmud, which happens to be a Pesach pun, and also requires you to know Tanakh, so none of you will get it, but I'll explain it to you, so it's okay, right? Is that the Gemara, right? Here's a little bit of pre-Pesach halacha, right? Where are you obligated to check for chametz?
Only places where you put chametz.
Good. So then the Gemara says, right? Umi amrina nechoshin shemegara chulda. So in the middle of one of these discussions, the Gemara says, but aren't we worried that a weasel would have hidden chametz in your house? Are we worried? So the Gemara says, are we really not worried about it? As Yaakov said, I think 2 days ago, right? If you are going to have chametz, left over after bedika, put it in a safe spot, because otherwise you're going to have to do bedika again, right? You put out 10 pieces of bread, and then you forget where they are, right? You're in trouble, right? Or even you find all of them, and then you put them somewhere, and the next morning they're not there, right? You're in trouble. So you see, you are worried. Rabbi Lokasha Barbasar B'Shlosha Asar B'Shlosha Asar D'Shchicha Rifta B'Kulei Bate Lo Mitzana Barbasar Lo Shchicha Rifta B'Kulei Bate Mitzana. And the Gemara says, on the 14th of Nisan, we are not worried that. On the 14th of Nisan, we're worried that a chulda is going to hide chametz from you, but on the 13th, we're not worried because you can always get bread somewhere else. So the Gemara says, really? The weasel knows when it's 13th or the 14th of Pesach such that he should be planning to hide the chametz? The weasel. Weasel. What?
Rat.
No.
Weasels don't eat bread. They don't go to houses.
Samarava. So the Rava says, "V'chi chulda neviyahi," and he says, "Is the chulda a navi? Diadana?" And the answer, and why is that funny? Because yes, there was a woman named Chulda who was a Neviah in Direi Yamim. Haha, hysterically funny. Okay, good, great. Puns doesn't surprise me. It also happens to be... Oh yeah, sure. Now it also happens to be that the humor that you probably would least expect to be in the Gemara is slapstick. But guess what? The Gemara has slapstick. Slapstick is like, like person slipping on banana peel. Slapstick. Right? Three Stooges. Slapstick. Elamai. The Gemara in Bava Kama Lamed Zayin Aleph is undeniably slapstick. Right? Because the Gemara has the following case. That Chanan Bisha Taka Leilahu Gafra. There was a man named Chanan Bisha, or the scoundrel Bisha, who hit somebody, right? And also made the Rav Huna. Amar le zav zil havle palga de zuz. He says you owe half a zuz. So what did he do? This is predictable already. Havle zuze maka. He had a full zuz, and he asked for change. Bar le mizve mine palga de zuza. She tried to give him the zuz and get change. Lahave mishtakale, but he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't give him change. So what did he do? He hit him on the other side of the face and gave him the whole thing, right? That was very good. Right? That was like predictable, right? That is classic slapstick, right? Slapstick routine. That is classic, right? Classic.
I would actually laugh at this. Yeah, it's great.
I didn't say it was funny. I said but it is clearly a form of humor. There are people. Look, it's funny to certain people, and the Three Stooges really did make a lot of money, right? Based on this type of humor, right? Certain people find slapstick funny, right? Certain people don't. But it is, this is like standard slip on banana peel humor, right? There's no denying this, okay? Now,
are you learning a lesson from this story?
No, I mean,
is that like
sure, if you punch someone twice, you'll have to pay him twice. Yes, right? That's true. It's a story. It's clearly meant to be funny. It's clearly meant to be funny. Now,
I don't understand what you mean. This is not supposed to be funny.
Throw something at him.
Everything except halacha is supposed to be taken entirely seriously.
Yes. Okay. Now, the reason I get into this is because our Gemara on Daf Yotes has what is the other most likely type of humor that rabbis will use, and that is irony. Irony, right? Especially cynical irony, but fine, irony, right? Now, this is one of my favorite stories in Shas, because this is rabbinic humor, right? This is like very rabbinic humor. So, this is our Gemara. Levi Reb Shimon beRebbe Yosve Kamei the Rebbe Vikapaski Sidra. So, Levi and Reb Shimon were learning from Rebbe, and they were learning Torah. And then, Salik Sifra, they finished. They made a siyum. So, what do you have to do after a siyum? Pick a new sefer to learn, right? You finish learning one thing, you pick something new to learn. So, Levi Amar Laisi Lan Mishlei, Reb Shimon Rebbe Amar Laisi Lan Tilim. So they had a machloket, right? Levi said, "Let's learn Mishlei," and Reb Shimon Rebbe said, "Let's learn Tilim."
Why not Gemara?
What? They were learning drushes. What doesn't matter? That's not the kasha here. Kafye LeLevi. So Rebbe.
Mishnah.
Rebbe also wanted to learn Tehillim. So Levi was outvoted.
Yes.
Right? So Kafye LeLevi V'aseh Tilim. What was the problem? They got a few psukim into the pasuk of Ki im b'Toras Hashem chefzo. And Rebbe made a drasha. Perish Rebbe Vamra. What is Ki im b'Toras Hashem chefzo? If the Torah is your desire, Ein Adam lo made Torah ela mimakom shali b'chafetz. You only learn Torah in the things that you desire. So Amar Levi, Levi said, Rebbe, you've just given me permission to leave. Right? Right? Now that is classic. Right? That is perfectly played cynical irony. Just perfectly played. Perhaps even more classic, and this is, right, if I had to categorize it slightly different, because here, this was like not planned. Right? It was just, he took advantage of cynical irony. Sometimes you outwit your opponent in a comical way, right? That you find Chief Rabbi Sachs loves this Gemara. I heard him say it once in YU that he loved, like this was like his favorite Gemara. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah in Chav Testament Beis has the following story. So the background was there was a machlokes. After Chorban Abayit, in the time of Chorban Abayit, you blew shofar in Yerushalayim on Shabbos. Yeah? Yes?
Yes.
Right? Even though it's Asher Midrabanan to blow shofar on Shabbos, in the Mikdash, and Makom HaMikdash, so in Yerushalayim, you did not have the Shvus. So there was a machlokes. Once Yerushalayim was destroyed, and the Chacham moved to
Yavne.
So the machlokes emerged. Is Yavne for these purposes like Yerushalayim? Meaning, would we override the Derabanan and blow the shofar in Yavne? Okay, that's the background here. So here was the machlokes. Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to Bnei Beseira, Nitka. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, I think you should blow the shofar. Now this happens to fit Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's theory in general, which was part of the way he dealt with Churban HaBayit was recreating Churban HaBayit, right? A lot of his takanot you'll see go like this, right? That in the time of the Mikdash, you only took the lulav 7 days in Mikdash and Bigvulin for 1 day. But once the Bayit is destroyed, we take the lulav all 7 days at Bigvulin. Right? I mean, one of the ways that he dealt with it is by expanding Mikdash practices outside the Mikdash. So this is classic Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai.
Does he do it like as a takana or like?
He does seem to do it as a takana. He seems to do it as a shita, right? No, as a takana, but like as a series of takana that were meant at a certain aim. Right? That's a shir for another time. Okay?
But it's like his own personal takana or something?
I mean, he was allowed to do that.
I know.
No, not for himself. Like he made takanos, right? Like he is the author of these takanot. He got consensus, but that's not the point. So Amrlo Nidon. So they said to him, "Look, you're not going to blow shofar before we talk about it, are you? Let's discuss whether this is mutter." So Amr Lahem Nitkavakav Nidon. He said, "Look, let's blow the shofar because by the time we finish this machlokes, it's Rosh Hashanah's me over. So this year, let's blow the shofar, and then we'll have a discussion what policy will be, right? So la'achar shetaku amr lo nidon. So they blew the shofar, and then they said, okay, now it's time to talk about policy. Amr lahem kfar nishma karen b'yavne ve'en meshiv la'achar ma'isa. What's there to talk about? We already did it, right? Right? Now this is also.
This one's not a joke.
No, it's not, but it's funny, right? See, that's the thing. It's not a joke.
But
it's deathly serious.
They kept this.
Good. Now,
Is it Karen or Karen?
what?
The yeshiva, is it Karen B'Yavne?
No, it's Kerem. Kerem B'Yavne, because Kerem B'Yavne, they sat in a half circle. Yes. Like,
Why not? It's a loan translation from Greek.
Come on.
Please stop.
the Chazal's understanding of it was that they sat in a half circle. Great.
So what does Karen B'Yavne mean?
The orchard.
Literally the vineyard of Yavne.
That they sat in a half circle.
Because that's the way they would... anyways. Okay. But yes, it is Kerem B'Yavne, or just KBY. Okay?
Wasn't it Chazal who named it? So what?
Well, okay. Now.
Gave the reason?
Result didn't name KB1.
Now good. So, why does this matter? Now, Ellie, okay, I tortured you for 10 minutes and I showed you a few examples, and we'll see a few more as we go through, of evidence that Chazal were at least trying to be funny and sometimes succeeded. I don't know whether they always did. That's al tam vareach, ein litvakeach, and kal v'chomer on senses of humor. I mean, certain things are just objectively not funny, but those, you appreciate why they are at least funny according to certain types of humor, right? I find some of them funny. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Okay, why does it matter, right? Why is there a benefit bichlal to humor? I definitely put Rava Pasuk with Duchasa, did I not? Seriously? That's what happens when you put together different source sheets. Now obviously, right, the classic one that proves that Chazal valued it is not just our attempts at finding humor in the Talmud, is the fact that the Gemara says in no uncertain terms that Rava would open every shir with a joke. Right? Presumably a funny joke.
Well,
Right. I mean,
I'm not going to hold
Look,
the rabbis.
if we believe that Chazal were greater than us, then obviously they had a greater sense of humor than us, right? Fine.
Very funny, right?
Yeah, good, great, okay.
I've seen
Anyways.
the jokes, and the only really funny one was from the
slap.
Hun on the Scoundrel. So
That was good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, look, that being fair, was well played. Okay, so why would it be important? Though, why does it matter? Why do we care? Why is there a value to having a sense of humor?
Yeah.
So, well, throw some reasons out to me.
they always
It lightens the mood.
It makes peace between two people.
It
Really?
allows you
I
to do
don't know
tshuva.
It makes you sin, and therefore you could do tshuva.
Okay, so first of all, at some level, there is just a value. So let's see. At very simple level, there is a value to people being happy.
Yes.
That's important, right? Not like the end goal of everything in the world, but it is important. And even if you don't believe in you being happy, there's a mitzvah to make other people happy, right? Especially if they happen to be depressed, right? Right? That is not me making that up. That's a Gemara in number 6, where the Gemara is in the middle of discussing. Rabbi Broka came to Eliyahu because he always talked with Eliyahu because Eliyahu talks with everybody except for me, apparently. Whatever. And he says to Eliyahu, definitely not Eli. No. Eli's like, I don't believe you. This is irrational. You're not here. Right? So Broka says to Eliyahu, is there anybody here who has a chelik in Olam Haba? In this marketplace? And he looks around and he says, those two people who do not exactly look like rabbinic figures. So he runs over to them and he says to them, right, so these people are going to the world to come. So Broka went to them and Amar Lahu, my uvdaichu. What exactly do you do such that Eliyahu picked you out as getting a portion of the world to come? So Amar Lei, in shebeducheanan, we are jesters. We are people who make people laugh. That's what we do for a living. And mivadicha natsive, but we focus on making sad people happy. And that's what we do. Inami ki chazin beitredis lo tikra badayu tarchinu avdin lo shalma. Or when we see people are fighting, we try to make peace. Right now, I don't know if that's related to it. Right, meaning one is they make sad people happy, and the second thing is they make peace. Now, those may be related because it may be that when people are fighting, the best way to lighten the mood and make peace is lighten the mood. Right? So those may be related. So that's one. Right? Simply, there's a value in being happy, and at some level. Another one, right? Rav Hirsch, in a very Rav Hirschian moment, argues that, yes, it also helps us survive. The reason that Jews have managed to survive for so long is because we are really good at being cynical and laughing in the face of
danger.
Yes. His example is that when the Jews thought they were about to die in the desert, they didn't just say, we're dying. They said to Moshe, Hamibli kvarim b'Mitzrayim. There weren't enough graves in Egypt, which is like the classic, curmudgeon-y grandfather, right? Right? You were gonna kill me, you couldn't have killed me before we came here, right? It's like classic, so Rav Hirsch says in 8, the cynicism is remarkable. Moments from what in their mind is certain death, they still have an inclination towards black humor. This sharp irony, even in moments of deepest anxiety and despair, is characteristic of the witty vein which is inherent in the Jewish race from the earliest beginnings. The second is, it helps you get through trouble, right? I laugh in the face of death.
This was not a good thing they did.
I didn't say it was, but still, that doesn't change it, right? He's just pointing out that Jews have always been cynically funny. Always. Right? This is like, you can definitely imagine old people in your shul making a joke like this. You definitely can. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you were going to kill me, you should have killed me before Pesach. Right?
So I didn't have to clean up my...
Right, I've heard people make that joke, right? Like, sometimes it's not funny. Right, like the rabbi in the Bayit a few years ago said he was at a shiva. His wife was at a shiva house, and a woman there, in all seriousness, said to the Rebbitzin that she felt that she wished she had been the one who died because she would rather not clean for Pesach. Like we do have this type of sense of humor. What? Yeah, it's a madrega. What? Didn't say it to the person sitting shiva. They said it at the shiva house. Fine.
What's the buy it?
What?
What's the buy it?
Oh, it's the biggest shul in Toronto and possibly North America.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you joking?
No.
Isn't it Israel?
Breathing in Israel, Woodmere?
Yes.
How many members?
Official members, I think when I left, were 803 member families, and another 150 families were not associated. We have 11 minyanim on Shabbos morning.
11.
Are you joking? The young Israel Woodmere is
I do think we're bigger.
I think they might be
double or triple.
They're not double or triple. There's no way you're double or triple.
I think
I thought they had 1,000 families.
Family members. 2,000 members.
Families?
Yeah.
2,000
I don't know when that happened. Okay, it doesn't matter. Anyways,
That's impossible.
There's only that's like
I don't think that's right.
million. That's crazy.
First of all, A, no, but B.
okay, we're just gonna move on. We're just gonna move on. It's not important. Not important. Okay, guys, we're just not. We're just not. Okay. Okay. Fine. Another point is that Chazal assume. Oh no, I did. Sorry, I did too. Rava Pasuk. I did put that. Is that Chazal assume that you can't be involved. You can't really be involved in spirituality if you're sad. Like depression makes it difficult to be Makabel Hashem, right? And that's what the Gemara says in Shabbos in number 9. U'simcha mazosa zo simcha she'eno shel mitzvah lamed chashen shchina shara lo mitoch atzvos lo mitoch atzlos lo mitoch schok v'lo mitoch kalas rosh v'lo mitoch sicha v'lo mitoch dvarim b'telim. The shchina is not shara, not the sadness or laziness or levity, right? Not like right. El mitoch dvar simcha shel mitzvah, but joy of a mitzvah. Right? V'chein ledvar halacha. And the same is true of halacha and amarava, v'chein lechalam tov, eini, etc., etc. Well, actually, no, we should come back to that. I'm debating whether to go through it now. No, we'll go through it now. Right? So he says, Omarav, kol tamid chacham, Omarav gid l'morav, kol tamid chacham, sheyosh l'vnei rabba, v'in sivsosav not v'otzmar, tichavena, shnei amar, sivsosav shoshanim not v'otzmar, al tukimor over, elamar over, al tukimor el shoshonim. So he says, really, you should be happy. Torah doesn't succeed unless the Rebbe is dripping bitterness, right? Being caustic and bitter and biting. This is where I get my inspiration from, right? I try my best to be mean, or the Grinch, or whatever the case may be, right? Whatever. So the Gemara says, don't worry. The Rebbe, right? So the Gemara says, Harabba b'talmid. The Rebbe can be happy just to make the students miserable, right? That's the job. That's the job. So he might say,
pleasure from making the students miserable.
So he says, he says, or alternatively, it depends where. You start off in a good mood and then you get serious, right? Ki hadirabba, the mekami the pasuk l'rabbanan amru milzab dichusa. That before he would start, he would say a joke, get everyone right chilled, and then get down to business. Right, so first everyone laugh, and then he would make them all terrified. Right, Yosef be'emasa, they would sit in dread. Right, and they would learn. So again, the Chazal see that it's important to be makal be'shchina, and educationally, it also throwing in a little bit of humor makes it easier to listen to a shir, especially if it's about to be very serious. Right, it's much easier to give a shir where people are in a good mood. Yeah. Right.
Also,
in our shir, we always hear you laughing on the other side. I don't know exactly what's going on over there, right? But it sounds uproariously funny. Fine. Now, I would add. So I would add that I think it's not just helpful to get people in the right mood, but if you can do it right, using humor to give musar is also helpful because it softens the blow. Now, Ray Clapper likes giving this example. It's one of my favorite examples in all of Shas.
Soften the blow?
What?
Do we want to soften the blow?
You do if people want to be able to accept it, yes. Emotionally.
Ariel doesn't need...
Not you. You, I can just tell it straight. But some people, Ellie, some people don't like fire and brimstone, but fire and brimstone mixed with humor, they can handle.
I just don't know what the statistics are. I have no idea.
Most people aren't you. How about that, Ellie?
Look, you don't have to look in the person's mouth to know that men have more teeth than women. You just gotta use your mind, alright?
Okay, so Ray Clapper likes using this example. Guys, Ray Clapper likes using this example as what he thinks is a misunderstood Gemara. I tend to agree with him, right? Because you've probably heard this Gemara dead serious, but it's really not. Right, which is
the 127.
No, not that one. That one's obviously not serious. The Gemara says that's not serious, right? The Gemara people say, you can't be as great as the Gedolim because if they were like angels, we're like people, right? You read those Hadoros. Yeah, if you look at the original Gemara, it's hysterical, or an attempt to be hysterical. I don't know if it is, but I think it is, right? So how does the Gemara go? The Gemara goes like this: Kari alei lis dain bar inish. They said about this person, he's not a human being, right? It means beyond human. Igad amri kagon dain bar nash. Alternatively, this is the epitome of a human being. Okay. And then Reb Zera says, Amar Reb Zera Amar Rava bar Zimuna. And I want you to imagine the scene for a moment. Okay, think about the most serious person, rabbi, you can think of. Like serious, never cracks a joke. I don't know who you have in mind. Whoever you have in mind, okay? Yeah. Whoever. I have people in mind, okay? Yaakov, yeah. Okay. Have someone in mind who has no sense of humor, right? Me, thank you, Zeb.
That's a lie. No,
and the person gets up to give a fire and brimstone sichas moser, and he says, if the Moshe Feinstein was an angel, then we are mere human beings. If Moshe was a human being, then we are nothing but donkeys. Up till now, it's fire and brimstone. What's the next line? But lest you think we're special donkeys. No, we're regular donkeys. And then they go on long stories about donkeys who kept Shabbos, right? And only ate food that you gave Trumas and Meisers from. Right? People quote this as if it's serious. It's obviously not serious. Right? Meaning, there's a point, which is, yes, the earlier generations are greater than us. We have to respect earlier generations. But it's tempered with a heavy dose of humor. Right? Just imagine the modern equivalent. Right? Come up with whatever you want. Right? If Moshe was an angel, we're people. If Moshe was a person, then
we're
then
dog.
Yeah, whatever, right? We are, we are mice, but not Mickey Mouse, because Mickey Mouse runs an empire. I don't know, whatever, right? Like, it's clear there's a sense of humor there, right? That's being mixed in, right? Now, I mean,
yeah.
It's like okay. Again, different generations. I don't know if they would exactly make that go, but it's clearly not meant to be totally serious. Right? There's meant to be an element of humor. And now, the truth is, I pointed out at some point that if you look at the version in the Yerushalmi, in the Yerushalmi's version, isn't giving Moshe to somebody else. It's actually someone giving Moshe to himself. Right? He's laughing at himself, and we all know that being able to laugh at ourselves is helpful to bring ourselves down a notch. So you look in the Yerushalmi, it was a case where Rabbi Yirmiyah had accidentally eaten something that had not had Trumos and Maestros given on it.
Right.
And then he said about himself, Im harishonim k'malachim anu k'bnei adam im harishonim k'bnei adam anu k'chamorim v'lo k'chamosh Pinchas ben Yair, because Pinchas ben Yair could tell the difference between Tevel and Truma, right? Tevel and Metukan, and I can't, right? So it was about himself.
Well, doesn't that one make sense?
Okay. Now, another one which we've quoted before is that, if you remember from the beginning of the year, I quoted this from the Rav, that the Rav thought that having a sense of humor was a kiyum, I don't know how seriously he meant this, but he said it, was a kiyum of a halachta b'drachav, because if you remember, God spends 3 hours a day, quoting the Gemara, laughing, playing with the Leviathan, from which the Rav argued to be funny is to be godly. Sure. His sense of humor, what? That was Gimel and Beis. That was in our Gemara, so we've seen it before.
Humor is next to godliness, but only in an Irish dictionary.
That was terrible. That was such British humor. It was like...
Do they have no words in Ireland?
I don't even know what Ireland is.
Do they have no words between it?
Zvi says that as a joke, but having talked to you guys in geography, I know that that's true. I don't know which side of that divide you're on, but I know that half of you don't know what Ireland is. You definitely don't know the difference between Ireland and Northern Ireland, and maybe one of you knows what the Troubles were, and Donnie's not here, so none of you know what the Troubles were. What?
The potato famine?
Oh, Protestant and...
One of you knows! Yes!
Yes, the IRA, yes.
2 of you know! Yay!
The shoppers.
Baruch Hashem. Good. Okay, guys, continuing. However, now Ellie will be happy. The Gemara also has plenty of negative things to say about being happy and being funny. Right? Wonderfully negative things.
Funny.
Not funny. So... the Gemara in number 13 says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum ben Yochai, Asur le'adam she'yamalei schok piv ba'olam hazeh. It is forbidden to fill your mouth with mirth in this world. Shne'emar az yamalei schok pino shonenu rina. because the pasuk in Dilim says, then, in the future, our mouths will be filled with schok and song, emasai. Bisman, the second half of the pasuk, sheyomru b'goyim higdel Hashem lasos emela, when goyim will say, God has been great. Amru alav Reish Lakish, so therefore he says, only then, meaning in the future, after Mashiach and whatever, then you're allowed to be happy or full of mirth. But not until then. And Amr alav Reish Lakish shemiyamav lo milei schok piv b'olam hazeh mechishamar b'Yochanan Rabbi. And they said that Reish Lakish, once you heard this from Yochanan Zakkai, was never mirthful, right? Never full of mirth. Now there is a machlokes v'shonim and poskim, honestly, whether the point here is olam hazeh versus olam haba or churban versus non-churban, right? Meaning, is it that bikaron, being happy, is a problem, but once the truth is revealed in the world, so then it's a different type of joy? Or is it, no, really joy is fine, but we have to be misabel on the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore part of that calculus is that we shouldn't be overly happy now. But you see throughout the Gemara that is that the way in which this was applied was a machlokes. There were people who took this very seriously in Chazal, and people who did less. And this I do find very funny. The members of Chazal apparently didn't respect each other's shitot. It wasn't like, you are makbid on glad, I'm not makbid on glad, you're makbid not to laugh, and I laugh. Right? It was, no, the people who thought you should laugh spend their days trying to get the people who are too serious to laugh. Which that I, by the way, find absolutely hysterical. Right? So you look at number 14. Until this point, Rabbi Yirmiyah tried to get Rabbi Zir to laugh, and he didn't pull it off. And Rashi says that b'chol takpulos halalu asak Rabbi Yirmiyah lavi Rabbi Zir lidei schok v'lo sachak. I mean, Rabbi Yirmiyah went through all these different ways of trying to get Rabbi Zir to laugh. He just couldn't do it. Right? Why? Shemali schok piv Zir machmir tzvei. Right? He said Rabbi Meir was really machmir. Right? Rabbi Yirmiyah was a little bit less machmir. Right? Rabbi Zir, meaning everyone agreed you couldn't laugh all the time. Right? You had to be somewhat serious, whatever that means. Rabbi Zir was machmir, and he never laughed. Right? It was a chumrah. If I can't laugh all the time, then I'll never laugh. And Rabbi Yirmiyah was like, oh, come on. And he kept trying to say jokes, do whatever. Didn't work. In one of my favorite stories in the Gemara, in Nedarim, this is a particularly lengthy illustration of the pulls you could get. So, the Gemara starts with a very serious line. On the day, any day that Rebbe would smile or laugh, horrible tragedies would come to the world. So, therefore, when it was time for his son's wedding, Amar Leila Bar Kapara, he told Bar Kapara, Lo tivdichon v'nilach arban girui chite. Said, look, don't make me laugh at my son's wedding, and I will give you 40 sa'ah of wheat, 40 baskets full of wheat as payment for you not trying to make me laugh. Because Bar Kapara was like the funny man, right? He was the less serious rabbi, right? He was the Rabbi Rapp, if you know Rabbi Rapp. Rabbi Rapp is one of the Rebbeim in YU who has a hysterical sense of humor. Right? He's the guy who was roommates with Reb Solovsky and KBY and decided it'd be fun to raise a goat in their bathtub for 6 weeks. Like he's a more than your chickens, he raised a goat, right? And I've heard all types of wonderful stories. He actually is funny, not like funny like rabbis are funny. He's actually funny, as I heard from Tarragon, not Rav Moshe Tarragon, right? He was in high school with him. And he said he was once in class with him. I don't know if I was saying this on record, whatever. He said he used to be a troublemaker. He liked getting kicked out of class. So one day, the teacher said, Rap, no matter what you do today, I know you want to be kicked out of class, I'm not going to kick you out. So he went, bad idea. So he went and he sat down in the front row, and he took his book, and he threw it up to the ceiling, and let it fall down. Threw it up to the ceiling. I just kept doing this, and eventually the teachers lost it. They're like, Rap, get out of here, get out. But before you go, I just have one question. What are you trying to prove? Gravity. And then he walks out. There are people who are just legitimately funny, right? He's legitimately funny. That's actually, that's not rabbinic humor. They're just legitimately funny. So Bar Kapara was apparently, he also, once, But anyways, they tell all different stories about him. He's very funny. So he said, I will pay you, right, to not make me laugh. So Amar Le, Lichsi Mar de Kol Giura de Beina Shakilna. He says, deal, but only if I get to pick the basket. Right, he said, I'll give you 40 baskets. He said, fine, deal.
We made a basket full of coffee.
Did I actually not? Oh, I'm sorry. I actually
you were there.
I actually only put half the Gemara. Sorry, before this, this is the middle of the Gemara. I'm sorry. I actually cut to the middle of this Gemara. That's a mistake when I copied this on. The beginning of the Gemara was started like this. The beginning of the Gemara is that they were preparing the wedding and they didn't invite Bar Kapara to the wedding.
Okay.
Can you get me Gemara Nadarim, rather. Give me Gemara Nadarim. So it starts off with them not inviting Bar Kapara to the wedding. This is a mistake, right? Big mistake to not invite Bar Kapara. Why didn't they invite Bar Kapara to the wedding?
He's going to laugh.
Because he's going to make them laugh, right? They don't want to. Rebbe never laughs. Rebbe is a very serious person. He doesn't laugh.
Well, they didn't want calamity to befall the world.
Yeah, well, that was the point. So,
very reasonable.
Oh yeah, it was great.
I feel like everyone would be on board. I mean,
so they come in. They're in the middle preparing for the wedding, and they come into the wedding, and they see they have this, gorgeous, fancy chuppah, right?
Yeah.
And they come in, and it's graffitied, and it says, "You spent Esrin Arbon Alfin Ribon Dinar Nafku Al Beis Ginana." You spent 10,000 coins, and you spent a fortune of money on this chuppah, and you couldn't afford to invite Bar Kapara, right? And then he comes up with this impossible line to explain. And he says, in Amar Le, somebody said to somebody, no one knows who said to who, Im la'ovre ritzono kach, la'osei ritzono al achas kama v'kama. Right, which is normally a line in the Gemara about, if you violate God's word and he has mercy on you, then how much more so to people keep his word. But this doesn't, right? But this makes no sense. Right? So Bar Kapar said to Rebbe, according to Rashi, right? Yeah, it's not really clear. It's not clear what's going on, but it's something like, right? It's not clear if he's saying, look, like, you are going to be punished for violating what I said and not inviting me, or how could you not invite me and not do what I said, or I didn't do what you said, but I'm still getting last laugh. It's not clear what's going on. He's making some sort of very convoluted, nonsensical pun on a classic rabbinical statement. It's not clear what's going on, and we can have a whole shir on what exactly he wants from him. But in the meantime, he invites him, right? He wins, right? So he wins, but now the Gemara tells you, but he really shouldn't get him to laugh, because if he does, the world will come to an end. Right? Bad things happen when Rebbe is happy. Rebbe has to be miserable at all times. So he paid him off. He said, fine, you get to come to the wedding, and I will pay you a fortune of money, 40 baskets worth of... Now, this is a joke, because really, a sa is an amount, right? Because it fits in a certain basket. Right? So Bar Kapara says, sure, but I get to pick the basket, right? He plays with him. Okay? Let's look at the English. We don't have so much time. So what happens? He takes a huge basket, right? Not a small basket, but like a huge, like a barrel, right? And he puts tar on it, and he puts it over his head, right? And then he walks in and says, "Give me my payment before the wedding." Right? So, right, the deal was, you'll pay me after the wedding if you don't make me laugh. But instead, he comes in before the wedding with the barrel on his head, right? Which is already saying, right, I don't care about the money, I want you to laugh. Right? So he uses this as a joke. And what is Rabbi Yehuda's response to him? And he says, didn't I tell you, don't make me laugh? Right? What are you doing? So he said, what do you want from me? I'm just coming to take the wheat that you promised me. Great. So, continues. So at the wedding, on the day before the wedding, he says to the Chassan, he said to the daughter of Rebbe, tomorrow I will dance, your father and mother will dance at their son's wedding, right? Meaning, I promise you, despite the fact that Rebbe and his wife apparently are never happy, or Rebbe's wife isn't happy because Rebbe is never happy, even at their kid's wedding, I don't know what exactly is going on, right? I promise you, tomorrow they will be singing and dancing. Okay, so what happens? So they come to the wedding, and Bar Kapara goes over to him, and you can imagine, like, what's Rebbe doing? He's not happy, so he's just sitting at the dais, right, staring into space, stony-faced into
He's learning.
whatever. So Bar Kapara does what rabbis do when they're not. What do rabbis do at a wedding if they're not enjoying the wedding? They learn, right? So he goes over. He says, "Okay, you don't want to enjoy the wedding. We'll shmooze Torah." What would you talk about at a wedding if you were at Rebbe's son's wedding? I don't know, anything except for what he's about to do, right? And he says, Rebbe, I have a question for you in Parshat Arayot. What does the word toeva mean? Right? And Rebbe gives him a bunch of explanations, and Bar Kapara, on every attempt at the word toeva, says, nah, that's not pshat, that's not pshat, that's not pshat, that's not pshat. So finally, Yehuda Nasi is so annoyed, he says, fine. What does toeva mean in the context of illicit sexual relationships? Right? This is like the most bizarre conversation to having at the wedding. And he says, well, you want to know what toeva means so much? You care about Torah so much? Come, let your wife come. We'll have a toast. Let's pour a glass of wine. Dance for me. And then I'll tell you. So Rebbe says, fine. Right? And after he gets him to drink a little bit and have a little bit to eat, he says, toeva. It's a pun. It's toea taba. You are straying in it. Fine. Number 2. Bar Kapara does it again. He says, okay, you still don't want to get up? What does the word tevel mean? In the context of Arayot, what does tevel mean? Perversion. Tevel hu. Right? It is a perversion. It's talking about, right? This is just another one of those words, right? There are many of these words that describe different arayot as particularly egregious. So what's tevel? As in the pasuk of, woman shouldn't sleep with an animal, right? Shouldn't commit bestiality. Again, perfect conversation with the dais of Rebbe Yehuda Nasi's son's wedding, right? So he gives him a bunch of explanations, and Bar Kapara says, nah, that's not pshat. So Yehuda Nasi then says, okay, what is it? He says, tevel is Tevel Yeshba, Tavlin Yeshba. Does it have any spice in it? Right? Because it's so disgusting. If a woman is involved in bestiality, it must be that there's something, right? Now, all these are obviously ridiculous. There's not pshat in the pasuk, right? But what do you already see in this story? Right? That clearly Rabbi Yehuda Nasi at this point has given in to the fact that he's going to enjoy himself at this wedding, because he doesn't. What should he do at this point?
He should walk away.
He should kick him out, but instead he keeps engaging him in conversation. So again, he says, "Dance for me, drink for me, I'll tell you." And then he does it again. What does zima mean? And again, the same thing happens. So he says, "Dance like you did before. Have another drink." Right? And he says, "Zu mahi." Zima is this. What is it? Right? This, what is it? Again, not really pshat. Right? Because no one will know who their mother is, their father is, their daughter is, right? Enough people are lewd. No one knows anything. And at this point, right, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi has been getting up and actually dancing at his son's wedding, right, and having a good time. At this point, he's had several drinks, right? And his son-in-law storms out. He just leaves. He just storms out. And that's the end of the story. Okay? Now, here you see very clearly that Bar Kapara believes in a certain level of levity and humor in the proper context, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi didn't at the beginning of the story, and does at the end of the story. Right? At least at his son's wedding, he's willing to accept a level of enjoyment and a level of happiness, even if it takes a little bit of joking around. Now, the interesting thing is that what does Ben Elisha, right, Elisha, the son-in-law of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, represent in the story? Why does he storm out?
Because of embarrassment.
So it could be that he's humiliated, right? Which means that what? He represents Rabbi Yehuda Nasi pre-transformation, right? It's like he doesn't buy that this is illegitimate, right? I mean, it could just be he's embarrassed, or it could be like he doesn't, because clearly Rabbi Yehuda Nasi isn't embarrassed. He keeps doing it, right? He allows Bar Kapara to rope him in each time. But he represents the model that, no, it's all or nothing. right? Now, there are other possibilities, right? It's also possible that he was upset because if he's his son-in-law, what does that mean?
He didn't dance at his wedding.
Yeah, he didn't dance at his wedding, right? If he Kapara managed to get him to dance at this wedding, but clearly not at the first wedding, right? So there could be a little bit of resentment here. It's not clear what's going on. A lot of fun things are going on. But again, you see this notion that there's two sides, right? There are people who recognize that there can be value to humor and people who don't, and there is some sort of balance the Gemara is trying to meet. Okay. Now, people who are exceptionally humorous, or what we would call scoffers, I mean, people take nothing seriously, that's not a good thing. Right? That the Gemara says in Sota, that Omer B'Yirmi Bar Arba Bakito de Mekalim B'nei Ashchina, where there are four people who will never accept the Shechina, Kat Leitzim, Kat Chanifim, Kat Shkarim, Kat Misapri Lashon Hara. The scoffers, flatterers, liars, and slanderers. Now, why is that? Right? Why do you think that even if there's value to some humor, it would be bad to be funny all the time? Right? Why is that not Mekal Pnei Ashchina?
You don't take anything seriously. How are you going to be able to do that?
So part of it you don't take everything seriously. That includes God. Yeah. Right? There is, I think, a little bit more to it. This was something an insight I got when I was a Tikva fellow from one of the people in our cohort. That was their favorite word in Tikva. Cohort. What?
Which one of the laughter guys in this Sigma?
What?
Which one of these followers?
Scoffers.
Scoffers. Leitzim. Leitz in Hebrew, right? Meaning in English they translate really means like clowns.
I don't like laughing at people.
Yeah, they're right. It's a certain type of, right? It's people who don't take things seriously or they scorn serious things, right? At some level, though, I think part of the pshat. So again, there was my year in Tikva. One of the fellows was a Christian who'd never actually gone through the Bible. So one of her projects, she went through the Bible and she was discussing it at some point in one of our meetings, and she said that so one of the Israelis was telling a story, and he said when he was in the army, there was always one person that right before they went to battle would tell jokes to lighten the mood, to help them all get ready for war. Right? And everyone in the room was like, oh, that makes sense, right? To have that courage. But this woman who'd been going through Tanakh for the first time said, my intuition is to say that that's a good thing, except I'm going through the book of Samuel now, and it sounds like the day of war was a super serious thing. They're davening, they're fasting, right? Now she's right. Why? Because at some level it's true. Going into war, laughing, does make it easier. But dafka facing the possibility of mortality is what forces you to remember that your fate depends on God. Right? By making it all a laughing matter and making yourself courageous by not taking it seriously, you do direct yourself away from God. Right? And at some level that's true, right? You think about how, right, in Tanakh, right, we don't lighten the mood by jokes. Dafka don't lighten the mood. Right? Serious moments remain serious because that forces you to look towards God. Yeah. And I think part of it is, yes, even if there is a value, an educational value, an emotional value to humor, an extreme of it, especially when it takes a negative valence of scoffing, prevents you from seeing God. Now, halacha l'maisa, I gave you just one shita, right? One sort of middle position. The Aruch HaShulchan says, yeah, well, look, how do you balance it? Also, Adam shemali piv schok b'olam hazeh ki schok v'kalos rosh margilin le'erva. Right? 2 Levitus, and you end up with a rayos. But feel bisman hamikdash aser, even when there was a mikdash. V'zeh kshozik b'schok zman meruba macherim. He said, this is like to sit down and be joking for hours. Aval schok ba'alma, listen, but to laugh a little bit, that's not a problem, right? A little bit is good, right? The problem is you shouldn't be a frivolous person. Okay. So Yitzi Blau likes pointing out that if you want a bit of a theology of it, right, not just it's good, it has benefits, right, he notes that part of the answer is that not just how much you should be funny, right, meaning there's room for some humor, it makes you happy, it allows you to see the Shekhinah, it allows you to, right, it has educational value, etc. There's also a difference in quality of humor, right, obviously, there's a difference in quality of humor. Right, meaning
like an appropriate humor versus
appropriate humor that has a lesson. Right, meaning humor in certain contexts is didactic.
Yeah.
Right, humor in other ones is
just
not. Right, meaning if you want to think of a genre that is not always clean, but at least in principle is didactic humor.
Like satire or whatever.
So political. Yeah. Think about it. Like late night shows, right, are meant to especially, let's say, the sort of modern classic example of someone who uses humor to make people take issues seriously, though he's decidedly not clean, right, is John Oliver, right? John Oliver, right? Right. He's like the classic example, right? Meaning, but there is a quality to the humor, right? I mean, even if it's sometimes dirty, meaning, leave that aside. But there is.
From the way he explained it.
Yes, but some are better than others. Some are, right? Meaning, his deep dives, right? His 20-minute pieces, which are meant to be educational, like in a systematic way, not just like a cheap shot.
Right.
That doesn't mean I put my name behind everything that John Oliver says, does, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in principle.
Right.
Okay. So the Tiferes Yisrael. So if you look at Mishnah Perek Yavos, the Mishnah Perek Yavos says as follows: Reb Dosim and Hirkanes Omer Shena Shel Shachres Yain Shel Saharayim Tzichas Yeladim V'Shivas Bate Knesses Shel Amei Aretz Motzinas Adam and Olam. Reb Dosim and Hirkanes says that sleeping in the morning, right, naps in the morning, sleeping in, whatever you guys do, make you die. Remove you from the world. Drinking in the afternoon, childish chatter, and the gatherings of the ignorant. So what exactly is pshat here? So let's just look at the my English translation here. He says, okay. So Reb Dosim ben Hirkanes says, he mentioned 4 things that are very necessary for the health of the body and perfection of man. Nevertheless, if he is not careful concerning them, he'll lose his world through them. So morning sleep is a parable for all lethargy and laziness. A bit of it is good, right? Sleep in on vacation and go to the 7 o'clock Shacharis instead of the 6:30. Fine. A bit of it is good and much needed. And you're like, see, you have a sense of humor. A bit of it is good and much needed. We're not going to make it up for the 9. A bit of it is good and much needed for the health of the body. That one should rest after exertion. However, one who sleeps all night is no excuse for he's already rested the whole night. Right? Meaning, you need a little bit of rest. Great. You already had a good night's sleep. Get the Seder on time. I don't know. I have no idea. Afternoon wine is a parable for the chasing of pleasures when is not necessary for the strengthening of the body. For wine is the choicest of pleasures, and it gives the life force to the body, but only a bit of it is good to make the soul rejoice. But too much of it is harmful as it confuses the intellect. Yes. Okay. But then he makes an interesting move. Right? The first 2, for him, the limitation was quantity. Right?
Yeah.
But then he moves to quality. He says the chatter of children is a parable for humor and levity, which is a bit of it is also good to restrain and make the soul rejoice, but only with great men. Right? Meaning, if you're going to have a good time, do it with quality people. Because if you're frivolous with non-quality people, it'll be bad. Who have words of wisdom in their jokes, as it says, whose leaf does not wither, but children's chatter are presumably levity and scorning without a moistness of wisdom and understanding, which will not cause the soul to rejoice, but rather will just confuse the path of the intellect. The gathering of the ignorant is a parable for idle chatter, which a bit of it is also good, which is interesting, right? Blau points out this is the earliest rabbinic source justifying batala. Right? A little bit of idle chatter is good. A little bit of batala is good. After one has toiled in wisdom, he should be playful with his friends a bit, with unimportant things, for it is not required the strengthening of the mind, so that the soul can get through them like the body rests with sleep. Right? Shtickle batala is what allows us to learn the rest of the time. You can't be serious all the time. Right? Very few people can. I'm saying yes, but most people need a break. However, this is only among distinguished people. But again, he says that it's about quality. Right? That even when you're going to have a good time and be funny and let down your guard, that's specifically a good time to let down your guard with good people. Because when you're joking around with good people, good things can come of it. If you're joking around with the wrong people, bad things will come of it. You came across this piece in Likutei Maharan. I don't usually quote him, but whatever. I'm already talking about things I don't normally talk about. So Rav Nachman has a approach to you. We have 4 minutes, okay? You should always try to find the good in yourself and strengthen it, etc. And he says, right, skipping down towards the end, right, he is obviously the Baal HaMemra, that happiness is important. Right, this is very Breslov, right? He says you should be happy, even if that sometimes means being a fool. Right, because that is an important thing. But the clear even Rav Nachman, right, who said there's a value even to stupidity, is saying in what context? Because it allows you to find the good within yourself, and sometimes if you need to chill, right, you need to be happy, to be able to have the strength to get through things, so fine, whatever you need, right? Okay, the last one is a classic example as well in the Gemara, where the Gemara says that Mis Rebbe, when Rebbe died, Batla Anava, V'yaras Chet, right, Anava died. And Amr le Rabbi Yosef Latana Lotis le Anava. Don't say humility died, Ha'ika Ana. Di'ika Ana, I'm here. Right? Which is funny. Now, the Netziv gives an actual pshat to what he's talking about. But the simple read is that this is a bit of, right? It's humor, but it's a way of simultaneously taking the sting out of this depressing comment with giving Musar. I mean, he's saying, look, if he'd said it in seriousness, I'm the humblest person here, you'd say you're really arrogant, right? You're pathetic. But in the context, right, it's like, I recognize the good in myself, meaning don't be so depressed. We are good people, but the humor allows him to simultaneously say, no, we really are good. Right? Don't be depressed. There's good in us without taking himself too seriously. Right? So, Big Kitzur, right, the point of this, we actually made it through, right, is that the Gemara definitely has humor and values humor to an extent with limits, right, because it recognizes, on the one hand, it's important. Being happy allows us to be involved in spirituality. It allows us not to get depressed and get bogged down. And in certain contexts, like weddings, right, it's important, right? That's just, on the other hand, it can be dangerous if taken to an excess. Right, and part of the reason that you find it integrated into a holistic system is because it has a value if done with quality, if done with the proper perspective in the right quantities, right? And the challenge is trying to find that balance. But just showing the fact that humor is clearly integrated in a holistic way into the Gemara, but not all the time, right, is evidence that Chazal actually implemented that attempt at a balance. And this is just sort of an initial approach to the values and dangers of humor and why it is incorporated in the Gemara. Okay?